Yeah. Sports reports, no gimmicks, no clowns. 2-5, Mr. Logical, we run this town. Real talk only, no chasing, no doubt. From the east to the west, it's the order we shout. Mic check, lights flash, game time, stay ready. 2 vets in the zone, keep the pressure real heavy. Big hits, big plays, yeah, we breaking it down. Truth rings in your speakers, every word is the crown. From the north side hustle to that southern flame. Midwest grind, west coast of the game. Sports talk kings, yeah, we wear that crown. Turn it up, let them know it's about to go down. Sports reports, no gimmicks, no clowns. 2-5, Mr. Logical, we run this town. Real talk only, no chaser, no doubt. From the east to the west, it's the order we shout.
It's about to go down.
Yes. It's Friday night. And the mood is right. Gonna have some fun, show you how it's done, TGIF. You are now listening to the sounds of Sports Reports as Ordered. We got a lot of NBA to get to. I'm gonna try to put Mr. Logical on the spot and see what he says. We're gonna do some college football expansion talk. Like, review, subscribe, share, rate, do all the free things, do all the good things. Liquid Death in hand. We are everywhere you get your podcast. Say less, say more.
Now, shout out to Devontae Smith.
Okay, there it is.
Got a juicer.
There you go. All right, let's get right to it. All right, so you pride yourself on being Mr. Logical.
Absolutely, 100%.
It's time to see if you're willing to make a hot take here.
Okay.
Are the New York Knicks going to win the NBA title?
No.
Oh, he wouldn't do it. Oh.
No, because logically, I'll look at it logically. I think we're going to get to Oklahoma City. Obviously, we do our review.
Right.
I think if the Minnesota Timberwolves get through the gauntlet that is more than likely them beating San Antonio, the more than likely matching up with OKC in the Western Conference Finals. If they match up with the Knicks, that kind of gauntlet, that kind of run through the West, I don't think they're going to look at the Knicks and feel like, oh, we can't compete. And I think the level of confidence those guys are playing with would be through the roof.
Okay.
San Antonio, if they were to make it through, they would have the same kind of confidence, beating OKC, kind of being the only team all year long that seemed to have OKC's number, and then beating them in the Western Conference Finals where OKC presumably will have home court advantage. I don't know how many games it'll go. Or they go.
You don't think that could be a detriment though? Like they would be too full of themselves?
Nah, because I think they already believe they could beat OKC, and then just the matchup with the Knicks. I think the Knicks can win the East because I think there's glaring flaws that can be exploited by the Knicks with the other 3 teams that are in the Eastern Conference playoffs currently. Okay. I don't think those same flaws translate to the NBA Finals with the team that comes out of the West. And OKC, obviously, if they win the Western Conference, then that's another step that we've dominated all year long. We're not gonna, stumble our way through. And like I said, maybe they took Indiana lightly last year. Maybe that was their wake-up call, but I can't.
No, so I think that with OKC in Indiana in particular, I think that's the Spurs thing. OKC hadn't been there before. They hadn't done it. They were young. So they got to the finals. I don't think they took Indiana lightly. I think they just didn't know how to put it away. Because if you remember 2 years ago, Luka took them out in Dallas. 6 games. They didn't even get to the 7th game. And it was because in the clutch, OKC couldn't figure certain things out.
Role players couldn't hit the ocean off the side.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah.
So they were going to take game 1 and Luka just kept knocking down shots.
Yeah. So then last year, when they got to the finals, I think it was just that thing of they were just better than Indiana, but they were bailed out because Indiana hadn't been there either. So, if they would have played Boston, for example, with Jason Tatum last year, I don't know if Oklahoma City wins that because they wouldn't have had the ability to put the game away potentially unless it was a blowout. But when it comes to the Knicks, I look at what they're doing right now, and even I, the Knick hater, have to be impressed. And we're back to square one, right? Embiid missed game 2. He's back tonight. So now you got to readjust, and he's coming off of injury. So he's hanging around, instead of going down low, he's hanging back there at the 3-point line. He's at the elbow. He's doing everything but what he should be doing. And now the Sixers are at a place where you don't want to be, relying on Paul George.
Yeah, I'm watching the Knicks game right now. They just had a bad inbounds. I think it's Landry Shamet that just kind of threw the ball away.
Wichita State.
The thing I like about the Knicks is that, like, they're a tough team. Oh, I guess it's not a foul call. Oh shit! And B's on the ground again. They're a tough team. They're gonna play with that edge, and I think they have bona fide scorers. They have true wing defenders. Like I said, I think Cleveland has flaws because they have a superstar that has to kind of share the spotlight with the other two guys, and then James Harden just hasn't known the clutch. I think Philly's a good team, but I just don't think their health is enough. Ooh, good defense, Embiid.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying last year about Philly, because last year, El Residente, he had Philly making the finals. He believed, once they made their moves and everything, and I told him, like, you might be a year too early because they had to rely on too many dudes that aren't healthy, whether it's Embiid, whether it's Paul George, Maxey was missing time. So it was just, that was the thing. But also,
I think Maxey's currently playing with like 2 of his fingers taped together because of he has like some nerve pain in one of his pinkies.
And then going back to last year, they still had people on the roster like Eric Gordon and people like that, where I said, it's one thing when you're starting lineup, you feel like you don't have enough basketballs. So like, when D Wade, LeBron, and Bosh got together, it's like, there's only one basketball, you know what I mean? Like Kobe, when you're on his team, there's only one basketball. But with the Sixers, I felt like even the guys coming off the bench needed shots. So, it was just kind of, and then they were trying to work in Jarrett McCain too. So, so there was just a lot of firepower that they had that made them an attractive team, but too many dudes that needed shots to be effective.
Like the old Portland Trailblazers when they had 2 starting lineups effectively, and it was like, when you have 2 quarterbacks, you really don't have one.
Right, and in the playoffs, your rotation generally is going to shorten out. So, you know what I mean? And so that's why I think it was a year early. Now, when I look at Philly this year, it's just Embiid. Like he just – like, hold up. Before I even go any further, like –
hold on.
Let me tell you what's wrong with the playoffs right now.
Yeah.
There's been some very exciting games. But these games are very one-sided as far as officiating goes. Like, I feel like Jalen Brunson is just winking at the ref and getting foul calls. When I watch OKC and the Lakers, it's just literally OKC diving across the floor.
He's on the floor again.
Cleveland.
We've been doing this show for 9 minutes. Embiid has been on the floor 4 times in live action. And it was on a commercial break at one point. So we've been on air for 9 minutes. That's when I started the game. He's been on the floor 4 times already.
Yeah, like even Cleveland's been getting beat up. But if they touch Detroit, foul. Like these games are so one-sided as far as the game 1 of Minnesota and San Antonio was that way. Like Minnesota was getting the friendly whistle. It's just like, it's weird. Like, just let them play ball or call the foul on both ends. Like, I just don't understand.
I think they do let them play ball. Look at AI in there in the Flash jersey. I think the problem is I know it says one-sided, but I think some of the teams that are getting more foul calls are also playing poorly in other aspects. So it looks like every defensive possession we're getting a foul call because you're not operating effectively offensively. The Knicks are upset with the refs right now. I personally think
and I don't know why they've been getting the calls.
I think that pass got tipped by Oubre.
Like it did, but Oubre's been getting beat up tonight and not getting calls. Like, and that's why like I'm at odds with the Laker fans right now because even though I'm agreeing with them that the refs seem to be a little more OKC centered. It's like this is the first time the Lakers have had to, I know, but this is the first time the Lakers have had to deal with that. So now the Lakers are experiencing what everybody else experiences when they play the Lakers.
But it's you got the like JJ Redick mentioned the superstar calls as we're bouncing around all the playoffs. But
yeah, we'll get back to the Knicks here in a second.
some of the contact just needs to be called, and I'll go back to my son's freshman year. They had a freshman team. And the ref called, like, we got the tip off. The other team got the ball. They were trying to set up a little screen. Our kid was trying to fight through the screen, and he got his hand in between the screener and the kid run off the screen just to try to keep up, just trying to squeeze through. The ref called that. We are 4 seconds into the game. I was like, dog, if you calling that in a freshman basketball game, we're going to be here all day. We were. They called 60 fouls.
Yeah. So
that's the problem. So these refs, the game's going to be intense. I think they just need to have an honest conversation with both coaching staffs before the game or at least the day before and just kind of say, hey, listen, if you guys are going to play physical, we'll let it go. But if we start calling, I don't want to hear shit from either one of you, the benches, because we let it go early, let you guys establish your rhythm. But if guys are out of position, hacking at players, hitting arms, we got to call that. Maybe I don't like the moving screens because a lot of times guys are just they know the screen's coming and they run into the guy's leg that's trying to set the screen. I'm in place. He tripped over my leg, so how's it a foul on me? So I don't like those calls. I don't like anything far from the basket. If a guy's trying to defend the guy 94 feet, let him do it. Unless he's hacking him and truly hindering him from like holding the ball, grabbing his arm. But if the guy's just trying to play and they're both bumping, he's got his elbow in them, let it go. They keep calling these push-offs, and you can't call it the whole game. And I think that's the problem because the plays look the same. A block and a charge on either end of the floor looks the same. So if you don't call it one way and you call it the other way, the opposing coach that didn't get that call is going to be split.
But that's the problem with guarding somebody
like consistency problem.
But that's the problem with guarding somebody like Brunson, because you always talk about how guys like LeBron are big, so they kind of have to sell it a little bit more because they're constantly getting hit. But he's so strong that you're not knocking him off the square or whatever. But with a guy like Brunson, who's small, 5'11-ish, 6-footish, you bump him a little bit.
6'2".
He ain't no damn 6'2", but you bump him a little bit, and it looks awful because of how small he is. But also, he's smacking you with his hand the whole time he's dribbling the ball.
He generates a lot of contact. So that's what I mean. So as a ref, you got to tell Mike Brown, like, listen, Jalen Brunson creates a lot of contact. So if he's going to create this contact and try to shoot these fall-away jumpers, if he's creating contact that whole possession and he gets bumped at the end, we're letting it go. But if he comes off a screen and gets bumped, we'll call it. But if you're doing this every time you switch hands and you're throwing elbows and shoulders and biceps into your defender, and then you fall away and shoot a jump shot, then
and we'll get. I got a thought about that with James Harden too that we'll get when we get there. But the Sixers, it's crazy because like we found Mikal Bridges. He had the bad series in the first round, and so far in this series, he's been looking like the guy that they paid money for. Like I think he must have heard some rumors about, hey, Giannis is coming, and he's like, So now he's trying to play his little heart out. The Sixers also. I think this is where they're missing a guy like Jarrett McCain. Just that guy that you could put out and go to that corner and hit this three or come off top, come off the screen, come off the curl, make the defense find you.
He has a very fluid offensive game. I don't know what Nick thought in that trade is like
I think
because the way he was, like I said, the way he was playing last night, like he was moving and he had that little reverse layup towards the end of the game. He looks like a fluid scorer.
Well, I think the thought was
fit him in.
Well, I think the thought was, hey, we got DJ Edgecombe now that we got to give your minutes to. You know what I mean? And of course, I look at it and say, well, you can still carve out 15 to 20 minutes for him. You know what I mean? But then you got a guy like Oubre who you're going to play.
Oubre, you could put him, Oubre, Embiid, another wing defender, and a 4 out there.
Yeah, because I feel like in a series like this, if you put, and I know I just said what I said about Paul George, but generally he's been playing well these playoffs. So if you had Paul George and McCain on the floor at the same time, you could spread it out, and keep the floor open. And they're going to knock down shots. That creates the room that Embiid needs to go down there and operate. But you know what I mean? But they chose not to do that.
I think most of these coaches just know how to coach their starters.
Well, I think you know what I think it is.
Starters, and they don't know how to build the rest.
You know what I think it is. I think it's like when you job search nowadays, and there's no entry level anymore. Like every job is like 2 years of experience. I don't got time to
have
train
8 years experience. Like, you want to pay me $62,000? No.
Yeah, I don't have time to train you. I need somebody that's going to come in here and hit the ground running. Yeah, and that's what I think is happening in the NBA, where you see things like Jared McCain getting traded, or like they don't know how to manage their rosters or manage the rotations.
And when it happened, and you and I and other pundits were like, "Why'd you trade Jared McCain? You just drafted him last year."
Right.
So it's like, but yeah,
he came into the league having 30-point games.
Yeah, I just feel like sometimes these coaches really just don't know how to, like we talked about Missoula last week. Like, trust the bench. These dudes are. I was talking about some guy.
Y'all played 82 games.
Played 82 games. It's 400 dudes in the league. They are the best, presumably the best 400 guys in the world at this sport. You can factor in maybe it's 100 guys in this country. Maybe it's 20 or 30 guys in college that might be better than the few. But even with that, you're still less than 600 people currently on earth that could play in the NBA. And you have 14 of them, and you're like, you know what? Our rotation's 7 guys. I know we've gone 10, and you guys have big shots for us. And recently you had a 30-point game last week when we sat the starters, but now we're in the playoffs. The starters are 0 for 7, 0 for 9 from 3 and exhausted. I'm not going to give them 3 minutes. You go in there, go in there, shoot your heart out.
Yeah,
go in there, shoot your heart out for the next few minutes. Nah, we're going to keep Derek White out there shooting threes. We'll keep Peyton Pritchard out there and shoot threes.
So for all intents and purposes, for you, is the series over?
In Philly?
Yeah.
No, it's not over because the series doesn't start till the home team loses. They're battling right now. Score is 80-76. The Philly fan base in general is just really live right now because you have the Flyers. The Flyers are down 0-3, but they're in the playoffs. They just beat Pittsburgh. The place is packed. Like I said, I got this Philly hat on last night. They were giving out free hats at the baseball game. The environment is great. So as long as that kind of energy is coming from the crowd, I think you got a shot. And right now, the Knicks aren't playing great. They spent the last few minutes playing Hacker Robinson.
Yeah.
Brunson just got one of those calls you're talking about. I don't know if you're watching it live, but he's got one of those calls you're talking about. But yeah, Philly just has they have. Oh, he's doing the SGA thing when he sticks his arm in. Yeah. Oh yeah, I will review that, Nick. I hate this when players do it, but it's like
I know they do it after every whistle too. It's annoying. But I think that the Knicks have all the ingredients. Like we talked about it coming into the season, they should have been the favorites to win the East in the first place. You know what I mean? It's just that I didn't trust them. And Mike Brown has done a good job this year. It sounded like early in the first round there was some talk that if he didn't get to the conference finals or the finals that he might be in jeopardy, but I don't believe that considering that they just got rid of Tibbs. And
I wouldn't believe that. And they beat Boston. And they were, like I said, before Jason Tatum tore his Achilles, they were up in that game and they were about to go up. I believe it was at 3-1 then,
Yeah.
right? They were going up 3. I think they were up like 7 or 8 points.
Yeah, they were up 9, and yeah, when he got hurt. But yeah, so I think the Knicks are in a good place. Even if Philly comes back and wins this game tonight, I think they're in a good place because they just have more reliability. Like if Mikal Bridges is going to play like this, like he's been playing the last 2 games, they're going to be tough to beat. But also, without Anunoby, that might free up a little bit of space for Philly to get their offense running.
Landry Shamet just knocked down a 3. And the thing with the Knicks have their guy that they go through to generate offense. And then they have their second guy that's clear. I think the Sixers having Embiid is a guy you go to when you want to see him get his bucket. I know he had nearly a triple-double with assists against Boston, but that was kind of an anomaly of a game. I think Embiid is one of those guys like where you work it around to get him to his spot so he can get his shot off. Whereas I think Maxey is a guy you can run your offense through. But I think Paul George operates like the guy the offense goes through. So I think in those crunch time moments, like I think the score was like 78-76. The Sixers haven't even gotten a good look at the basket because they really just don't have that guy that kind of drives what they do consistently, especially in like crunch time. Like I said, Embiid is a solo act. I think it's odd that I'm putting it that way, but I think Embiid could put 50 on you.
Yeah, if Edgecombe could shoot,
giving him the ball, yeah.
If Edgecombe could shoot, like Philly would really be dangerous. He gets open looks because the defense says, "Here, take it," and he's not making them pay. So in turn, the defense doesn't have to account for him in that way. So Paul George can't get loose. There is no space for Maxey to get to the basket. Embiid has to kind of figure out how to get a basket. Like he's getting a lot of rebounds.
VJ has to get downhill. Like they got to figure out a way to get him downhill to the hoop.
Well, I think he just got to do it. He's like 19 years old. You know what I'm saying? Like put on the Jets and go.
Yeah, but if everyone knows that's what you're going to do, like Maxey, his speed is different because he will pull up. Yeah. He will shoot that little step back or the side step 3. Whereas I don't know if VJ, like I've been saying this term a lot, I don't know if he has the green light to do that off the dribble. 14 seconds left from the play clock. I think Maxey can do his wiggle and get a step back and shoot that 3 or use his speed to get downhill. I think VJ's probably going to absorb some of that, like that talent and that information and those kind of skills from Maxey. But that still leaves Paul George and Embiid as 2 guys that like, I gotta create time for you to get your thing, like get your shine on. Whereas I think Maxey can just kind of create it on his own.
Yeah, then we got another game 3 following this. Minnesota gets the home game against San Antonio. Game 2, San Antonio came out and smacked them around. I don't know if Minnesota
ass, what they say.
Yeah, I don't know if Minnesota shot their load in game 1. But I know last year, for example, there was a game in that series where Minnesota beat OKC by 32, but obviously OKC came back and won that series. So same question, lesser degree, are the Wolves, is there 15 minutes of fame up?
No, because they have a bit of as right now they have home court advantage. I think, and we talked about this last week, sometimes when it's on, everybody's just shooting a rock and eventually it will go in. You're like, if everybody's on, if the lead is consistently 8, 9, 10, 12 points, they make a run, get it to 7. You guys go on a run, get it back to 14. You come back out of the timeout with a couple of guys off the bench. They know they're up 14. I'm open in the corner. I'm shooting the 3. Now we up 17. Those kind of games happen. When you get to Minnesota and the crowd is right on top of you and everyone's yelling, everybody's in the shirts, and they're grabbing at you defensively and they're not calling it because it's playoff intensity. and your role players aren't getting those shots off. Wemby falls a lot, hits the deck a lot. If he's getting bumped and not getting calls, does that make him resort to shooting the three like he did in the first game? So I think when we talk about those games where guys are scoring like 50, 60 points, no matter where they are on the floor, there's no doubt about it. Donovan Mitchell scored 70 something in the game a few years ago. He was shooting whatever he wanted because he just knew, I'm locked in. Wemby can be one of those guys that get you 35 to 40, but if those first couple of threes don't fall, or if someone defends him at the rim, or he misses a little easy shot, does he go back to just being a finesse player? I got to see the ball go through the hoop. And now you're burning your energy. I think he's still on a bit of a pitch count, so they rest him. If he doesn't get, 2 or 3 blocks, 6, 7 rebounds, and 8 points in the first quarter, does that turn into a 17-point, maybe 20-point game total? I think that's what happened in game one. He was so amped up defensively that when you saw the box score, he had a triple-double, but he had 11 points.
I think tonight we find out what the Spurs are made of. From the standpoint of this is their first time in the playoffs with this team. They went into Portland game 3, but that's a different environment. This series, you're going up against a team that's been to the Western Conference Finals 2 years in a row. So Minnesota's locked in and ready to go
and tonight. They have an assassin on their team.
Now, granted, he's still injured.
Dying to get one on Wemby.
Yeah, and you
if
got,
that happens, it's a wrap.
But the problem for Minnesota is they keep dropping like flies. Dosunmu is a little banged up again. Jaden McDaniels has been having to be the offensive leader, which is a new role for him.
40 points in the playoffs, and then now your body is like, hey, man, that's all I got for you. Can't get back on the floor. No, you see what we were doing out there? We was cooking out there.
And then you got, Mike Conley only got but so many of those game ones in him, left over. Then you got.
Well, maybe they took that break in game 2. Like I said, they have home court advantage. You call it off and say, you know what? Let's regroup. Let's win both at home, and then come back here and close it out.
And that's why I say the key to this series for me is Julius Randle, because I don't know if the Spurs can keep up the level of intensity of defense that they played in game 2. That was their best effort of the season, and that's a lot of energy, especially when we talk about how physical the playoffs are, you're on the road now. So does that intensity remain the same way it did when the crowd was cheering for you? So I think tonight's the night where we learn about the Spurs, because if you and I'm not saying that if they lose tonight, they're not going to win the series. That's not what I'm saying at all. But what I'm saying is that if you come into this game 3 knowing that it's going to be rabid and rowdy, and you lose this game, you can't tell me you expect to go win, game 1 in OKC.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's where, you start to figure things out. But I think the Spurs still win this series, just because I just don't know how healthy Minnesota is. If Ant is still going to be coming off the bench, say in game 5, for example, that's going to be a tough road for Minnesota to win this series.
If he's still coming off the bench in game 5, that means Minnesota has won a couple of games. And it's effective. So if they have to switch up what they, whatever their plan is, like I said, if he gets healthy, if he gets to 100%, like I said, he dropped 11 game 1's fourth quarter. Like I said, sometimes you just need a star to get a star opportunity. And like I said, he is the guy that wants it. We talk about guys not wanting it. We kind of fault James Harden for feeling like he doesn't want it.
Oh,
Ant is one of those guys who wants it.
Yeah.
All right. I'm just looking at this. Oh, that was a travel. Looking at this Sixers game. It's scrappy, man. It's like an
old school game
run.
Almost. You know what I'm saying? But then over in the Midwest, here's the question of all questions, Mr. Logical.
Mm-hmm.
I guess outside of the Spurs, I say. But do you think people still fear OKC?
I don't think it's a fear. I think people are annoyed by them, but they're also good enough to beat you straight up. That's the problem. It's like the remember that boxer Prince Nassim Ahmed would do all those herky jerky
the little
dances and all this, and he had like a 14-minute intro to get to the stage. He was like playing the piano one time. It was annoying. Like he took the thing off, like it was like he was like Beauty and the Beast or something. Like, it was like annoying. Like, I'm watching this fight. I'm like, yo, get to the ring. But he gets in the ring, and he was still still belt the ass. That's what the OKC Thunder are. It's like they could be annoying. The flopping. I don't understand why these guys are flopping this much. Even if you get hit in the face, just stay there defensively. Because what if they don't call it?
So normally
you're flailing like that. And you're like, and the dude just turns around and gets an easy layup. And now you're looking at the ref like he's like, yo, he didn't hit you. Like so now you gotta fake like you got hit, and now you gotta act like it. It's like when your kid's crying. I'm like, yo, nothing happened to you. What you crying for?
Well, sometimes
you fall 2 inches onto the floor, and you didn't fall off the counter. You tripped over the rug. Stop crying. Now you got to get up. Now you're embarrassed.
See, sometimes with OKC, I feel like a lot of people are just piling on, like it's the popular talking point, so they over-exaggerated a little bit. But what Chet did last night was absolutely disgusting. Absolutely
got hit
disgusting.
In the chest and he grabbed his mouth.
Yeah, and fell backwards, and I'm like, okay, that's where I kind of hit my point of what are y'all doing? But the thing that's bad for the Lakers right now, obviously, is that they're playing OKC. But the bad part of that is, so you had Austin Reeves put up 31 last night, and I talked about how he hasn't showed up in the playoffs or whatever. SGA is only averaging 20 in this series. He scored 22 in game 1, 18 in game 1, 22 last night. And they still won both games by double digits. So that goes back to
that's the thing. That's what I'm saying. That's the Prince Nassim Ahmed part. It's like they have all the weapons they need to beat you,
and they don't even got J-Dub.
And they do, but that's the thing. J-Dub, I'm not knocking his contributions, but they have so many guys. Like what J-Dub gives you is split now between Casey Wallace and Jared McCain. Mm-hmm. So and you can put them out there at the same time.
And AJ Mitchell's been killing it.
And it's seamless because Kaysen is your on-ball defender of whoever the point guard is. So Austin Reeves came back in again game, they'll check him back in. But in that meantime, when Austin Reeves on the bench, McCain's in there doing his thing. I think they're young, like Chuck said to Draymond the other day, like it's a young man's game. I think OKC is young. I think they're young, they're scrappy, borderline like theatrical. But the problem for Adam Silver is that they're going to probably make the NBA finals, more than likely. If I had, like, I don't know what the breakdown is, if it was like a percentage of the remaining 8 teams, I imagine they have a 25% chance and everybody else is fighting over the 75%.
Let's look at the odds.
If I had to guess, that's probably high, but in my estimation, I'm thinking that's probably the divide.
Yeah, so as of right now, ESPN has OKC minus 170, Spurs plus 425, Knicks plus 700, Detroit plus 1500.
So they're heavily favored to win it. But the narrative surrounding them, and this is another thing I talked about last show. The NBA pundits do a poor job of highlighting the quality of the playoffs. It was a quality series that a first round where 2 teams came back from 3-1. The young Detroit team that made to the number 1 overall seed in the East, or number 1 Eastern Conference seed, battle back from 3-1. Boston losing a 3-1 lead. These are great talking points to have. But it feels like the NBA pundits want to go to whatever Jaylen Brown saying on his Twitch and the foul calls from OKC. Well, Adam Silver's like, yo, OKC is going to be in the finals. I can't have casual fans thinking that the Thunder just flop. So, like, you guys need to talk about how much they are dominating the greatest player of this current era in LeBron James and how much they're dominating one of the greatest franchises. Like, that needs to be the conversation.
And they have a chance to get the number. And they have a chance to get the number 1 pick on Sunday.
Yeah, so it's like that needs to be the conversation. But I don't know if that conversation doesn't move the needle, but the way OKC is playing is obnoxious. If we were playing in at Hill Air Force Base on a Wednesday at 2:30, I'm like, dog, how you this big and you on the ground this much?
Yeah,
that's
so
what
as
I was
far
thinking. Like, yo, get up off the floor.
So as far as the Lakers go, they keep trying to trap SGA, and I get it. He's the MVP, probably going to win the MVP again. You're trying to get the ball out of his hand. I get it. But the problem is OKC is good enough to do this. Jarrett McCain, you brought him up. He's 8 for 10 from 3 in these first 2 games. So now it's crazy because now you go to LA, so you hope that some of that reverses a little bit. But I'm like, if I'm JJ Redick, I say, you know what?
Play him.
I got Marcus Smart. You know what I'm saying? You just stay with him the whole game, and whatever happens, happens. And then you got DeAndre Ayton out here, doing the Clint Capella thing that he didn't want to be associated with. Big for no reason. Not adding anything to the Lakers' offense. So I don't know, man.
I think he's doing fine. The problem with the Lakers offense is that there's even with LeBron, there's not a lot of. If I'm OKC, there's nothing I need a game plan for. If we're gonna run a 2-3 zone, cool. If we're gonna go man, cool. There's no special thing I have to do to defend the Lakers. If Austin Reeves wants to go and get his wiggle on at the top of the key and maybe get some space, I'll live and die with that. If LeBron is going to orchestrate the offense from wherever he's standing, wherever he gets the ball, I'm good with that. There's not a single person that I have to game plan for offensively.
Yeah.
So if Luke Kennard gets an open look, that's fine, but he's not going to shoot 10 threes.
Yeah, I don't know.
And if he goes 1 for 5, he'll stop shooting.
I've been trying to figure out if Luka's going to come back. And, and then on top of that,
he had an 8-week injury.
I gave the Lakers 1 game when we made our predictions about this series. I don't even know if I see that 1 game now. You know what I mean? Because like I said, like even last night, they were toe-to-toe with OKC for about 3 1/3 quarters. And, they even had the lead at points. And I never felt the Lakers were going to win that game last night. No, it just never registered.
They don't have what you need as an NBA team to really, like right now, because of injuries. Vanderbilt's out. Like I think he broke his finger on the backboard. Luka being out. I don't think there's a scorer that comes off the bench with their second unit. I think they're just bringing another big in Jackson Hayes. Kennard, maybe, but he's not technically a scorer. He's just a shooter.
Right.
They don't bring in a guy like hell, Jordan Clarkson. Jordan Clarkson gets the ball in his hand, and you can tell he's trying to initiate something. He might not always take that shot, but you can tell he's that type of player. I don't think the Lakers bring that guy in, the guy with that kind of confidence to just kind of run the offense.
They drafted this guy last year that they gave up on. They could probably use him right now.
But he's just a shooter. Like I say, but that's the thing. He's just there's.
Well, I think he's a shooter. I think he's just a shooter because he plays for the Lakers.
I don't think he can. I don't think his handle allows him to play
No, he's not going to come in the game and be Kevin Durant or some shit.
No. Give me a good 6-man, like a guy that you can rely on. OKC.
Kuminga. How about that?
Kuminga. Yeah, I don't think he's going to come in there and play like Kuminga. I don't think we know because they never did anything with him. They definitely did jam him up pretty bad.
You know what I mean? So I don't know.
Once again, that's also part of their problem. Is you didn't keep the players you needed. There's tiers of players that you need. There's tiers of things that you need. When you're building a house, it can't just have nice countertops and floors. You got to get some nice doors in there. You got to put the whole thing together. It can't just be oh, this is a great location. Yeah, but the house isn't built properly. Shit's missing. And that's one of the Lakers' problems. The entirety of LeBron's time there is You had pieces you didn't like, you moved them, you replaced them with similar pieces, and it seems like it's like they're making a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy, and every single time it's like you keep thinking LeBron is 2019 LeBron that showed up there. It's like, no, this dude has a 19-year-old son. Like, it's you got to start thinking differently about the guy who's leading your team.
Dallas should have kept Jalen Brunson instead of Luka. But let's take it over.
Could have made it work with the Porzingis, Brunson, and Luka. I think they could have made that work. If you didn't have,
they made the Western Conference Finals. Like,
I'm talking about, like, still, like, I think they still could have, like, made that work. I don't know what Porzingis was upset about, but that's just the NBA. Like, listen, we can armchair quarterback this all day, and we never worked in any kind of NBA office. We just kind of look at the results of the decisions that these guys are making, and it's like that didn't seem, especially when you can look back on it and say, I didn't think that was going to work, and then it doesn't work. So you don't even need to be a genius. People are like, oh, you never played the game. Well, I know, like, trading Luka probably wasn't a good idea.
Yeah. So Harden strikes again. You know what I'm saying? So if you allow me a second here.
Okay.
So in these playoffs that we're in right now, James Harden has 52 made field goals, 53 assists, awesome, 47 turnovers.
Okay.
Four out of their 9 playoff games, more turnovers than field goals. So he's up to 47 now overall in his career. In this series against Detroit, 2 games, 11 turnovers, 9 field goals. Cleveland, this playoff, 0-4 on the road. Since Donovan Mitchell has been there, 4-13 in road playoff games. And they haven't won a playoff game on the road this playoff yet. They're going back home. Are they done, Mr. Logical?
I mean, if you can't win a game on the road, then you're done. I mean, like, just logically speaking, they don't have a closer.
They do have a closer. He just can't do nothing because nobody else is doing anything.
Yeah, the closer's closed no matter what.
You know what I mean?
Closers close games. Like Kobe closed games. LeBron closes games. Jordan closes games. Jalen Brunson closes games. No matter how you feel about Cat, but Jalen Brunson closes games. Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, in these certain moments, close games.
James Harden is literally falling on the floor and giving the ball to the other team. What's his name? Evan Mobley is out here getting his Roy Hibbert on 1 rebound last night. You got Jared. I know you got Jared Allen, who can hit a little floater here and there, but the floor is just tightened up. Donovan Mitchell can't even get to the basket. But
that's
the other
coaching.
But it is. I was about to say that.
Coaching.
Well, yeah, coaching. actually, yeah. Let me get to coaching. Here's coaching for you. This is a quote from Kenny Atkinson.
All right.
And this is just a short sentence. Quote, I don't know what it is with the start of games. It's you!
You!
Get the team ready. It's you.
You should be like, hey, we're going to attack this way.
Hey, guys, in game 1, we fell behind by 15 points. There's no way we're going to win in Detroit if we fall behind double digits. What do? Fall behind double digits. Mr. Logic, in game 1, Detroit had 31 points off of Cleveland turnovers. 31 points.
Listen, I remember when the trade happened, you were a little bit more optimistic about it than I was.
Yes.
I wasn't. Because I just...
But even you couldn't have thought it was going to look like this.
I didn't think it was going to work. I didn't know the nuance of why it wasn't going to work. I just knew that Cleveland seems to always, a lot of teams and a lot of organizations seem to want to get rid of their team and dismantle the team because they think the team should be at this level and they're at a different level. And I think they're living through seeing their team through this lens of like, yo, your team isn't this level good.
Yeah.
So don't make the move where you give up draft capital, where you move a guy too early in his contract. You draft the guy and give up on him too soon because like your team is not that good.
Well, they're probably going to fire Atkinson and get rid of Mitchell.
James Harden is probably one of the best basketball players we've seen. He was on a great. They had a great opportunity at OKC. I think they blew that up too early. But there's no HD footage of basketball after April 30th of any calendar year where you can say James Harden was the best player in the playoffs, in his conference, or even in the series that he played in. It just hadn't happened.
Sometimes on his own
I didn't
damn
think that
team.
was ever going to happen. That's what I'm saying. Like there isn't one moment where it's like, oh, like when I say 2018 Bron, you don't even rock with Bron to the level that I do, but you're like, yeah, that was a different year. He looked different. He was taking on to Kobe in Game 7 against the Celtics. You remember that because like he went 6 for 24, but he grabbed 15 rebounds. We remember those things because these are the moments where you do these kind of things.
Harden did put up a 45-point game in TD Bank when Embiid didn't play.
Yeah, and they lost that series because Jason Tatum put up 50.
I know, but
you could have guarded them.
Harden had two
height.
Harden had 2 45-point games in that series. But but also if you're Cade Cunningham, you just see food. You know what I'm saying? You look out there and you're like, who's gonna guard me? Mitchell too small. Harden just don't even try to play defense. You know what I mean? Max Strus ain't gonna get it done. Maybe you can go to the bench and get Jalen Tyson, to get a little more size on him. But like the other problem with that is that once guys make a certain amount of money and achieve a certain status in the league, there's no reason for James Harden to be starting right now. You know what I mean? Like if he wasn't James Harden, he was just a regular point guard, he'd have been benched in the last series. But because he's James Harden, you have to play him. No, you don't. Your job is on the line. Sit his ass on the bench, and you got to.
Like, we know there's a financial component to these decisions.
Hey,
we know there's.
What? I'm gonna walk in Dan Gilbert's office. I'm gonna walk in Dan Gilbert's office and say, "Do you want the financial responsibility of paying him, or do you want the financial windfall of playing
so much money off these TV deals?"
No, I know, but I'm just saying. Or do you want the financial of the windfall of potentially having more playoff games at home this year? Because after these two, we might not.
Nah, see, he's guaranteed the 41 home playoff games in the regular season. That's where his bread's buttered. I mean, like, let's keep it real. Like, we talk about this a lot of times. A lot of owners, it's like, ooh, and B's on the floor again.
Won't somebody knock Duncan Robinson on his ass?
Because Duncan Robinson's out there to ball. He's not out there to flop. He doesn't flail. He just
I ain't say flop. I said knock him on his ass. He ain't got to flop. You hit him.
Get back up. I went to Division III basketball, to Division I, to NBA. He's
Cleveland's had some bad go at it, man. Because game one, Ron Holland hit a 3 from about near half court at the end of the third quarter. Then, last night, Dennis Jenkins hit a late 3 in the third quarter at the buzzer. And then, the other part of that goes back to what I was talking about earlier, is the referees are letting Duran and Stewart push people around and do the physical things that we know Detroit to do. But Cleveland, any little contact at all, there's a foul call. And, so you already got Evan Mobley soft, right? You know what I mean? And he's not getting the foul call. So you've effectively neutered him because he don't want to go down there anyway. And now you're not giving him the call. That's coaching.
That's coaching. We talked about it with the Lakers. You can't turn the ball over 20 times. You can be mad about the fouls, but let's say hypothetically, you got 11 turnovers. And those other 9 possessions, you got 9 good looks. And you knock down 4 of those 9. The score isn't, you're not down 8 and 9. Late in the fourth, complaining about fouls and foul calls. Score's probably tied. Maybe you're up 1 or 2 because you didn't give away 20 possessions. You only gave away 12. Well, they were giving away back-to-back possessions. It was one possession where I saw the Lakers had a made layup, and OKC came down and shot a 3. It was 3-on-2. It was only 2 Lakers back, 3 Thunders back, and Kaysen got a wide open 3. Like Marcus Smart was crossing half court when the ball was going through the net. That's not the refs. That's effort. That's what you could do. Cleveland, you have a guy in James Harden who does not play top tier winning basketball in the playoffs. He hasn't his entire career. He doesn't go old dark 30. He doesn't flip a switch. He doesn't do the press game conference like Kobe said, job's not done. He doesn't have that intensity and the size to dominate like Shaq did. Like some of these guys just don't have it. You have to figure out a way to get it to where who's going to score? Is Mobley going to be our guy that scores? Or are we going to shoot more threes? What are we going to do? But more likely, you're going to lose this series. You're probably going to lose your job. And James Harden's going to probably be on insert whatever team Giannis goes to next year.
Man, send James Harden to Sacramento where he belongs. But that it goes back to that thing that I always talk about when I talk about, hey, they let teams play a certain way during the season, then in the playoffs, you turn the whistle off, or that's what happens to James Harden a lot of times. Is that he plays a certain way, and you know what I mean. And then he doesn't get those calls in the playoffs.
He should have stayed.
And now
he should have stayed Houston James Harden.
And now he's slow.
Come into the season with that fat suit and looking out of shape, just to shit on these dudes. He had like John Wall, DeMarcus Cousins in his locker room. And he was saying stuff, I can't win with these guys. They were like 4 games into the season just to get traded to Brooklyn. Like, I'm not saying like it's a respect. I'm like, I lost a respect for him. But it was like, yo, you can't act like that and literally do nothing. He's done nothing remarkable as far as like that caliber player that he is compared to the other stars of the league. From that time that he came into Houston supposedly out of shape. Rumor has he was wearing a fat suit, or he was wearing like multiple shirts so he looked bigger, or whatever the case may be. Whatever he did to orchestrate that trade to Brooklyn, there hasn't been a moment where it's like, yeah, James Harden's that guy.
Yeah, so at this point, it is what it is. Jared Allen. So in addition to Mobley with the 1 point, Jared Allen 2 points, 3 rebounds. But of course it comes down to 3-pointers, right? So Detroit 14 of 28 last night, Cleveland 7 of 32. So just make 10 threes and we got a whole different game. Max Strus, 27 minutes, 1 for 6, all 3-pointers. Whereas here's the coaching part. Keon Ellis played 5 minutes and made the only 3 that he took. Played 5 minutes in the whole game. So, in 6 out of these playoff games that they played this year, the Cavs have lost the fourth quarter. That's a whole lot of coaching.
They don't have a closer.
You know what I'm saying?
They don't have a guy that says, hey, give me the book bag. Let me throw it on my shoulders. Y'all hop in here with me. They don't have that guy. Some teams do. Some teams don't. Even teams that don't win the series have a guy like that. Like I said, Philly has that guy. I think Maxey's that guy. We saw it last year when the Knicks were about to win in 5 at the Garden and he took over at the 4-point play. Some teams just have the guy that can close games out. Cleveland doesn't have that guy.
Sad, I can't even argue against it right now.
Not that guy.
But is this the end of the road for Jaylen Brown?
The contract is so gigantic. I don't know how it could be.
Picks.
I saw something ridiculous because it's always the case. But this one I actually kind of I didn't research it, but I think it might be plausible. I guess Austin Reeves is due for a big extension. I don't know if the Boston sees him and thinks that he's worth big money. But if they're offering him $220 million with Jaylen's like $300 million and then some picks from LA and maybe Rui, maybe that'll bounce out and they give Austin a 4-year 220 or something like that.
Right.
I feel like I feel like he's just speaking his mind. I think ironically, one of the knocks on him, we talked about this before a lot of times in the show, like there were some NBA execs that felt like he was too intelligent to love basketball the way that they kind of need him to love it, to the point where he's going to like just die on the basketball cross for the team. I think he understands, like, I don't need to do that. He started his own brand. He's freaking NASA scientist. He's like, I have all this money I've already signed for. I'm already building like I bet his financial portfolio is pretty solid to the point where I don't think he's beholden to the organization and whatever they say you cannot say, you can't say. He's like, I'm straight without whatever you guys got for me. And I'm not going to do anything to jeopardize my career because he's a smart guy. But he's like, I'm not going to sit here silently because I feel like Joel Embiid flopped. And he did. Joel Embiid's 285 pounds. Jaylen Brown's a big, strong dude. He bumped him and he fell to his knees and then rolled on his back with his arms up. I'm like, I've been in street fights where people aggressively attacked me and I didn't fall like that. And I'm 5'8".
This is hilarious. This Dominic Barlow from the Sixers, just looks like Junior Wemby. But like, yeah, I think that there's some conversations.
And he got on SGA too. I saw another video. He was talking about SGA. He was like, "Hey, he flops."
He
said he gets away. He's like, we and him do the same move, but yeah, he's about to win back-to-back MVPs. And yet I get called for a foul every single time I do it.
Yeah, and he's been going at it with Stephen A. on Twitter.
I don't even listen to even if Stephen A. has an articulated point. I can't deal with it.
Shout out to Stephen A. for bringing back Skip Bayless today.
Fools.
And then what did Skip Bayless do his first day back on First Take?
Start bashing LeBron.
He ranked LeBron number 9 on his all-time list.
It's so corny.
But
I want to shout out to them. This is the reason me and you have a show. Because we were both equally sick of both of them for all these years. And this is why we've done this. And this is why we have all these episodes documented, because Skip and Stephen A. Smith are two of the absolute just most dramatic just weasels in sports media. And it's ridiculous. You have all this access, but yet you act like these players are supposed to praise you. Like, dog, you're a fan. Be a fan.
Y'all see that, right? Mr. Logical would never say that about Nick Wright.
Nick's wrong.
But yeah, so Jaylen Brown allegedly is frustrated with the organization. The problem here for me is that he got his mouthpiece speaking for him, because I feel like he's speaking through Tracy McGrady, who was the one that originally brought this up on the podcast.
Is McGrady really like a counsel of his?
He's his they say like they have a mentor-mentee relationship.
Okay.
But also there was a reporter, and I'm so sorry because I forgot his name. But after Boston, one of the games where Boston beat Philly, I think it was game 1, the game where Boston blew him out. He got on his radio show and he came out and he said, "Hey, Jamal Mosley is going to be the coach of the Pelicans. He's going to get fired and be the coach of the Pelicans, and Jaylen Brown's getting traded." So here we go.
To the Pelicans?
1 out of 3. 1 out of 3. 1 out of 3 so far. Mosley's fired, so here we go. But Jaylen Brown, allegedly has these frustrations with the organization. Brad Stevens came out and was basically like, he didn't say these words, but I interpreted it as, if you got a problem, come talk to me. That's how I took Brad Stevens' comments. Brad Stevens also made some comments that made me feel like he was shitting on Jaylen Brown a little bit. Because you could say things without saying things, right? So we were talking about how, hey, this guy deserves MVP consideration. Like, look at Boston, still the 2 seed right now. And Brad Stevens made some comments that kind of alluded to, there's a lot of teams tanking out here. So were we a bit overrated this year? And it just kind of feels like,
we weren't
kind of
really
odd.
a 2 seed.
Right.
But
And if you look at those numbers,
like they're gonna have to pick between Tatum and Brown.
And if you look at those
and I think they
stats,
picked Tatum. And I think if the frustration comes with it, I think the frustration is that Jaylen Brown's like, I'm always available. I'm here. You saw what I could do without him, but yet he's still the golden child.
And then if you look at those advanced stats, it shows that Jaylen Brown, even though he had his best season, it doesn't really look like he had impact. Like he scored a lot of points, but the on-off isn't that different. Like the way we talk about Jokic or people of that ilk.
They have a good team. They have a good structure. I think that the loss,
Boston better be careful.
That is a goaltend. You learn more in a loss than you do in a win. I think with Boston, I think they just felt as if winning was proof that there was no flaws. And because they were winning without Jason Tatum and they were winning in spite of the plus minus for Jaylen Brown when he's on the court, off all these advanced analytics is like, all right, but what happens in the playoffs when you lose? Those games you lose, what is the problem? Because we talked about it before the playoffs started. Boston will go into a game and go 7 for 34 from 3 and lose that game. And they'll come right back out the next game, or they'll go on the press conference and say, this is how we play. We're going to keep shooting. They'll win the next 2 games, and they'll go 17 for 38 from 3 and 20 for 40 from 3 and see, we're perfectly fine. And we're like, all right, cool. And they go on, they win the series. This year, they had multiple games in that first round where they shot poorly from 3, whereas normally just one game. They did it against Orlando. They had one against Miami. Not the year they went down 0-3, but the year after that, they had a bad game against Miami where they went 7 for 30 from 3 or something like that. But they always right the ship, so they never make any corrections. They never make any adjustments. This is what's going on here now. And I think Jaylen Brown might be thinking we can't keep playing like this. We can't just let core pieces go like Horford, Porzingis, and all these other guys and bring in guys the way that LA did.
And Drew Holiday might have been the biggest one of all.
We can't do that. We have to figure out a way to pay these guys. Granted, he could have not taken $325 million, but you got a future.
But Boston got to be careful here too, because I know the logical thing is to think Brown out, Tatum in, but I don't know. Is Tatum starting an injury prone stretch?
I saw a guy today on a clip. He didn't explain it, and I figured me and you could talk about it because I didn't really want to hear his answer and regurgitate his answer. But what he said was if I'm Boston, I'm looking to trade Tatum over Brown. And everyone on the panel kind of looked at him like, what? And then he just repeated. So like I said, I wasn't influenced by anything he said.
I can see that.
And I was thinking what would Mike think? What did I think? I think Tatum is probably a more appealing trade because I think the team that's getting him will look at the Paul George frame, but with the success that we thought Paul George was going to have. Not a knock on Paul George, but Paul George, the way he played, he was he's taller than Tracy. He's Tracy McGrady's height, a little bit more size, went toe-to-toe with LeBron. And then now you have Tatum, who's that guy who's okay, this is what we thought Paul George is going to be. He has his championships. He might have a bit of a chip on his shoulder because he didn't win either MVP, the conference MVP or the finals MVP, but he's clearly your prize piece in Boston. I think if you have to make a move, now I wouldn't do it if I was Boston, but if I'm calling Boston about trading for anyone, I'm asking about Tatum more than Brown, and I think Boston would probably get more for Tatum than Brown. So this is the problem. If Boston was neutral from the standpoint of they just decided to break this up before we got here, and before they won the title, if they would have panicked, then I could see that, because of Tatum's trade value, he's going to net you a lot more than Jaylen Brown would have.
The problem in this scenario, now that we're here,
excuse me,
is that Jaylen Brown is the malcontent now, allegedly. He's the one that has the issue. He's the one that this is his favorite year of his career. And then you got people speculating like, yeah, Tatum wasn't there. So this is Jaylen Brown's mess that has to be cleaned up. So from that standpoint,
how do you keep him if you're gonna break up the team based off this Michigas who's been kind of gets spooled up? Like, well, the guy who spooled it up,
he's probably the one that has to go. You know what I mean? And I feel that Tatum is probably easier to build a team around, like just playing style wise. He's probably the one that you could fill out a roster with those shooters that we're talking about, the Hausers and people like that, and be fine. Whereas with Jaylen Brown, I think you might need to be a little more strategic in who you put around.
Like if you're trading and you're keeping Jaylen Brown, you're probably going to want a player that can do something similar to what Jason Tatum does. Like a guy who's like Atlanta has a lot of long wing guys, like 6'8",
Kuminga, right? You know what I mean? Like
Jalen Johnson, guy who can do a little bit what Jason Tatum does.
And see, the
primary ball handling and scoring responsibilities will go to.
You know what? Brown. I put it like this. And I don't mean no disrespect with the words that are about to come out of my mouth.
Yo, say it.
It's it's like you meet like your Alicia Keys, right? And then you meet your young Halle Berry. And, some things are going on. People, or Megan Thee Stallion might be a good example with everything going on. And you're like, yo, I could meet a couple of those. There's only one Halle. You know what I mean? So that's how this scenario kind of plays out. Like you could find Jaylen Browns anywhere. You know what I mean? You could find those. Like, it might not look exactly like him from a production standpoint, but playing style wise, you could find a lot of Jaylen Browns. You could find your Kumingas and people of that ilk. You know what I'm saying? But how many Jason Tatums can I find? And not only that, but from a playing style standpoint, a star of that ilk that's not a point guard that is so willing to pass the ball and set up the offense or run the offense. There's not a lot of that out there to run it as effectively as Jason Tatum runs it.
I'm Brad
That's
Stevens.
The problem.
I'm Brad Stevens. I'm figuring out a way to. I'm going all. I want to say all in. I'm going into my draft capital stash to try to make a move to get me to look like the 2023 and 2024 Celtics as much as possible.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find who's trying to come off of a unicorn type player because they just fired a coach. Who's trying to come off of a guy a scrappy point guard that can defend. What team is trying to make these kind of moves so I can rebuild and
Jalen Suggs.
Back to, I think Jalen Suggs will work perfectly because he's a scrappy guy. I don't think he commands shots when he has the ball in his hand. I think he takes them, but I think he takes them now because it's Paolo and Franz and all these other guys are controlling the offense. I think in Boston, if they told him like, hey, go back to how you played in Gonzaga, but when we're at 12 to 14 seconds on the play clock, you look for 0 or you look for 7.
Yeah, you put him on Boston. I think he could be your Derek White replacement at some point. But when I think about it, right? Because everybody's had these arguments for years, right? Tatum or Brown, and I've always said that I don't think the gap is that big between them. I still feel that way. The difference is right here. You know what I'm saying? Because if Tatum had Jaylen Brown's intensity, his belief in himself, I think Jaylen Brown just has a level of intensity that most people just don't have. Maybe that could be it, but Tatum, but that's the difference.
More exceptional than.
But I think But I think that's the
He
reason
do,
why
because he's not like he doesn't have like the aesthetics of how he looks as a basketball player.
that's what I'm saying. That's the
in
reason
himself,
why Tatum outweighs him, I guess, if you want to like that's the reason why Tatum is better, because he's just more naturally gifted.
He looks like like I said, if you were to draw your current day's basketball player, I think he is your upgraded version of Grant Hill. How Grant Hill was like the upgrade on Jordan before all the injuries came. Now with the way guys play, he's probably LeBron's height, little slimmer, moves more like a 6'2" guard, but plays at 6'8" and 6'9". That's what that positionless basketball. I think Tatum is that guy, but I think Jaylen Brown has never looked in the mirror and thought to himself, I'm lacking in this space.
Yeah, like he's like, I'm not number 2, I'm 1A.
I'm 1. Like I am 1 and we are a team. And he could say we're a team of ones, but I just think that is like, it's like wanting Nick Young to have Kobe. Not, I know that's drastic, but like Nick Young probably had the same level of talent as Kobe, physically, basketball, and everything, but he's never going to have Kobe's mentality. Scottie Pippen probably is, I mean, I was a Hall of Famer. He was never going to have Jordan's level of intensity, because that's like an elite level of that particular attribute. I think Tatum kind of gets knocked because he doesn't have what Jaylen Brown has. But I think between the two of them, that's why it works. Because I can see both of them last minute of the game getting the best available shot for either one of them, versus we talked about James Harden and Donovan Mitchell. 45 seconds left, they're down 4. You think the two of them are working together to figure out what the best shot is? No. But 45 seconds down 4, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, I think they're figuring out what's the best shot for right now in this situation. We got 45 seconds. We have enough. We got a couple possessions, maybe a foul in between. I think they're both thinking that far ahead. So for that reason, I just keep them, just because like winning cures all.
Right.
I will upgrade my role players out and then just run it back.
Well, I think Boston, can still be who we know them to be, but it comes down to coaching. So, Mr. Logical, we talked about March Madness expansion. College football said, don't leave us out the conversation.
Man, just pull it up. Pull up 1 through 24, man. This is so up. This is, remember, like one of our first episodes, I got it from Layered Kick, so I can't take credit for this line, but it was like, don't piss in my pocket and tell me it's raining. This is one of those examples of that. I get it. Just be honest. Just do me a favor. Just go ahead, give the Big Ten 4 spots. Let's be realistic. Give the Big Ten 3 spots. Give the SEC 3 guaranteed spots. And have everybody else fight for the other 6. Because that's all the college football playoff system wants. You do not want a matchup of Indiana versus JMU. Or even how many buys we get in this scenario, in our scenario that we're creating.
So right now, the top 4 seeds get a bye. In this setup, it would be the top 8. So basically, all they're doing is copying FCS right now.
So we got 9 versus 24.
Yes.
10, 23. Okay, so we got Bama, JMU, Miami, Iowa, Notre Dame, Georgia Tech.
Oh, look at you go.
You got BYU,
BYU Houston.
So if we're looking,
Tulane, Texas, Virginia, Vanderbilt, Michigan.
So you think Virginia has an opportunity to compete for the national championship?
No.
No.
Tulane, you got Michigan, Utah, and Arizona and USC.
It's just too many teams. I think 12 is plenty, and I think 12 with the 2 Cinderella potential teams they had in their last year is probably
hold up. Side note, the Timberwolves are 1 for 14 from the floor right now.
It's not looking good at all. It's not. It's 16-3, and Castle's at the free throw line. I'm just not. I thought last season's playoffs were just fine. I don't know why Indiana winning that national championship has thrown such a monkey wrench into this. I guess because it's new, but it's not sustainable. Because what Indiana did last year, they ran out a bunch of 22 and 23-year-olds that had 4 and 5 years of college experience, 2 or 3 years at JMU. They were with that coach for a long time. All of those guys are gone. Yes, they're landing a lot of number one players, but that's what hype is. I don't know why we keep falling for this. We fall for it with music. We fall for it with artists. We fall for it with movies. We fall for it with TV shows. We fall for it with fashion. Certain things are sustainable. Certain things are hype. Indiana, as of right now, is the new hype wave team. That philosophy, like you said, we're trying to pick out another team that can do it. What you need is a guy that's literally come up through the ranks, and he has players that he's coached for 3 or 4 years at a lower level, and he's going to bring them all up. That's not sustainable. He got his quarterback from Cal. He got Mendoza.
He got this year's quarterback from TCU.
He got the guy from TCU, and the coach at TCU is like, yeah, he had more turnovers than touchdowns, but we're not going to talk about that. And Kurt Cignetti, he's like, oh, we'll figure out the whole turnover thing. But if he doesn't, if Mendoza doesn't score that touchdown on that 4th and 8, that entire season is different. Miami wins the national championship. I think Miami goes down, scores, and wins. Because Miami is a traditional team that has Hall of Fame NFL caliber players have come through those hallways. That's where you're going to get. What they're trying to do with this expansion is make sure that these other teams don't get in, and we can get as many SEC and blue blood teams in as possible, because they want to get all of them in all the time. But the JMU Tulane thing last year ruined it, and they couldn't get all the SEC schools in that they wanted. They couldn't get all the Big Ten schools in that they wanted, and they felt like they lost some money. So now they figure we'll throw a few more games out there, and that'll be enough to recoup the money we feel that we're owed. But it saturates, it completely waters down the tournament in of itself.
So the problem is, when I was growing up, one of the things that I valued about college football was that it wasn't the NFL. They had their own rules. They had the stadium atmosphere, the bands, all that stuff like that. And all college football is doing right now is turning itself into the NFL. From the standpoint of, in the NFL, you get multiple chances. You could go 9-8, make the playoffs, and you could go on a Super Bowl run. We saw Eli do it 9-7 twice. So when you look at
Kurt
college
Warner
football,
did it in the game he threw against Pittsburgh. He almost won it.
He almost won it. Yeah. Then when you look at college football, when I was growing up, it was, you got a loss after November, you're done here. So it was like a playoff. You know what I mean? And then you lost early in the season. Okay, that happens. You got 10 more games to make it up. So now we get to this point of we got 3 lost teams in the playoffs. And this is a symptom of Ole Miss, Alabama, and South Carolina not getting in the playoff that first year. That's what this is a symptom of. All right. Secondly, the thing that scares me about this is that North Dakota State has won 10 out of the last 15 FCS championships, because FCS has been doing this since 2010. So from that time, North Dakota State has won 10 championships. Only one other team has won more than one. So there's 2 teams. So North Dakota State got 10, South Dakota State got 2, and then you got your Montana State, Sam Houston State, and James Madison. Shout out to Virginia. You know what I'm saying? So then, that scares me because I think of, Ohio State. Like, think about this for a second. If Georgia had made all these playoffs, or if Alabama had made all these playoffs, like they could have ran a 3-run, like a 2-loss Georgia. That year that Georgia killed Florida State in the Orange Bowl when it was still the 14 playoff, they might have won the national title that year if they got in the playoff. So from that standpoint,
that's why the 12 works. The 12
I like 8. I like 8. I've always liked 8.
I like 12. I like the bye. I thought last year they figured out the bye, make sure I like 12.
But the teams off the bye don't do well.
Well, that's on you. You got to practice how you play. I like 12 because it did give. I want to say give. Ohio State was able to play for the national title. Hell, Miami played this past season against the number 1 team.
And see, and you could argue, that they shouldn't have been able to.
But my issue is, who did you want in? Because it's not as if Miami was undefeated and Indiana had the 2 and 3 losses and had to get snuck in over Notre Dame or something of that position. But it was like you had the number 1 team, and then you had all your playoff teams to include Miami, who you put in over Notre Dame, Notre Dame was ranked above Miami every single week. We were having this conversation. What if? And the last what if question was, what if Duke beats Virginia? That was the question. And me and you talked about it. They talked about it on Fox. They talked about it on CBS. They talked about it on ESPN. Everyone had this question. All of a sudden, Duke beats Virginia. Notre Dame is out. Miami is in. How? And all of that stuff happened. So you, instead of sticking to your convictions as a committee, saying, hey, this is what we felt. They should have done it before. Personally, I think they should have just had Miami ahead of Notre Dame, just off the head-to-head.
Well, see, the problem is
head-to-head, because their season looked exactly as like.
Well, the problem is
because
that
they didn't do that. Now we need a whole new system.
Well, the problem is that the committee lies to us. So they say that they look at every week fresh. So when they put Notre Dame ahead of Miami, Miami was coming off those losses to SMU and Louisville. So it made sense to drop Miami. But I am of the belief of head-to-head. So, like, they should have never been below Notre Dame. But the problem is that if you're looking at it freshly, I can't sit up here and say that a team that just lost 2 out of their last 3 games should be in the top 10 or ahead of Notre Dame, who was playing the way that Notre Dame was playing. So I get the argument that way, but it just didn't like for me,
because
they both played 12 games.
They were expecting Virginia to win, get in, and say, well, Virginia is this record and they won the ACC.
Right.
Virginia wins. Miami couldn't get in. But the fact that Miami's record was substantially better than Duke's was enough for them to rationalize, because ultimately you have to sell tickets to the event. And
you have to honor the head-to-head. But Notre Dame would have sold tickets. The thing for me, though, is that
I'm saying not putting Duke in. They weren't going to put Duke in.
They had 5 losses too. Yeah, but my thing is, like, you played 12 games. Season's over. Miami's not playing in the ACC title game. Notre Dame isn't playing another game. That's where you can have the conversation of the season is over. No more losses are going to happen. I'm looking at this freshly. I got a head-to-head. Now I put Miami ahead of Notre Dame. You know what I'm saying? Versus waiting.
You and I had. It was like their season looked the same. They played the same level caliber of substandard teams. They played the same caliber of average teams. Their record and performance was about the same. I think one school probably scored. They had a common opponent, and I think they had 2 common opponents, and Miami scored more points than Notre Dame did against those 2 common opponents. Some cockamamie thing that everyone was talking about, other than Miami beat Notre Dame head to head. So even with all the other stuff that came along with that, they still beat Miami. Miami still beat Notre Dame head to head. That should have been the whole conversation. But since they didn't initially have that conversation, they had to dance around it until the point it got where it was going to be final and there's nothing you could say about it. So when they came out and Miami was in the the running for the national championship and Notre Dame wasn't, there's no more conversation the committee was committed to provide after that Sunday selection show. So they're like, okay, we can say whatever we want because we're going back to our respective divisions or conferences, and we're gonna watch the playoffs like everybody else.
So there are a couple of silver linings here. Even though I hate it, there's a couple of silver linings here. One, with this proposal, you're getting rid of conference championship games. You know what I'm saying? Which I've been wanting that for March Madness, but in college football, it makes even more sense because in football, you have the uneven schedules. You know, we talked about how Texas had the easy SEC schedule the last 2 years. They made the SEC title game both those years. You know, last year, Indiana didn't play Ohio State in the regular season. They didn't play Michigan, so on and so forth. You know, you look at the ACC, Virginia didn't play Miami. They didn't play Clemson. They didn't play, you just go down the list. So the conference championship isn't even back when the conferences were smaller, the conference championship game was, hey, let's get Florida against Bama. Let's get Florida State against Virginia Tech because they went through their divisions. Now, There's not divisions anymore, and most teams that make the conference championship game are there by virtue of their schedule versus this is an elite team. So I think that improves that.
That's a byproduct of them chasing the bag. They could have kept the Pac-12 with USC, UCLA, Stanford, Cal, Oregon State, even Utah was in there in that little, in that mix. They could have kept the Big Ten the way it was. They could have kept the SEC the way it was. They didn't. Yeah. They made all these changes, and now it's starting to bite them in the ass. Because now you have Texas not making the college football playoff in consecutive years. When you have your marquee guy that you want to highlight, you can't get him in the tournament because you wrote the rules because you thought the rules were only going to fit these bigger conferences.
So then, you got the other silver lining is that the season would start a week earlier, so we call it week 0 now. That would start the Thursday before, it starts now.
And that would give you 2 weeks on the NFL, right?
Yep. And, and potentially,
I like that
potentially, part. You could turn week 0 from USC against Nevada to USC against Arizona, like that playoff matchup would have been potentially. So, we'll see. I'm here for the experiment because some of these games do look good to me. I'm going to watch anyway, but yeah. I would have been interested in Miami, Iowa, Georgia Tech, Notre Dame. I would have been interested in Michigan, Utah, and how ironic that Kyle Whittingham is the coach of Michigan now.
Make it happen on week 0. I want all of these. If you're college football, I know the NCAA seems to not have a real grip and or control of anything that's happened in the NCAA, except they get to make all the rules and kind of collect all the money, but yet all the conferences seem to make all the decisions. I have no idea. It's complete. It's like inmates are running asylum in the college football.
Yeah.
Give me these matchups. Give me these blue collar. Give me LSU, Michigan, week 0, end of August. Let's get football started off right. You get a 2-week head start on the NFL. It's football. We all love it. People love it. Even people who don't love football love it. Hell, Rachel's gone to a bunch of high school football games. She's like, I can't really follow it. We went to a bunch of 7-on-7 tournaments. She's like, I like this way better. So even the non-traditional sense of football still can encapsulate a fan. You just got to put it out there to where, all right, we're not going with the traditional college football. You play Mercer State or Mike Wilson University, and you pay
we would kick some ass.
You know what I'm saying? We get to see how all this spring practice, all your commitment hype, all your commitment videos, all of the spring practice videos, all the training videos, all the NIL money you spent. All right, cool. Oregon versus Minnesota, or not, because that's probably a big thing. Oregon, Texas Tech rematch, week 0. What you got?
Right. So, I mean, that's what it is. Like I said, I'm here for the experiment just because it's more football. I'll never say no to more football, but it's not necessary by any means. It's not necessary by any means. So people are going to complain.
Is what America loves.
People are going to complain. People are going to talk about how the regular season doesn't matter. Guess what? You're still going to be excited for Ohio State, Michigan. You're still going to be excited for Florida State, Florida. You're still going to be excited for Arizona State if you live in the West.
BYU, Utah,
USC, UCLA. You're still going to be excited.
Push UCL, USC, Notre Dame. Whenever they make that up, it's going to happen. Oh, by the way, real quick update. 26-25.
Yeah, Minnesota's back. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So we will be back on Tuesday, y'all. You know what I'm saying? We'll have some playoffs. The Sixers might not be with us no more that night, but he is the one and only world famous, world renowned. He is cool, calm, and collected. As long as you're not talking about LeBron James.
I'm always calm. Even you talk about the GOAT.
You ain't calm when Rez on the show. He was born in Texas, raised in PA. You know what I'm saying? Representing everything New Jerusalem. You know what I'm saying? He told me, keep your eyes on the New Jersey Devils next year. He is Mr. Logical. Don't bring feelings to a fact fight.
Don't do it.
And then, of course, down here in the Alamo, it's your unorthodox statistician going left so much you thought I was southpaw. Next Saturday, we finally get Gina versus Ronda. I'm here for it. I saw Pacquiao and Floyd agreed to their deal today, so we all going left. But I'm the only one that you think.
40-year-olds out here fighting.
That's right. I am 2-5. This is Sports Reports as ordered. Like, review, subscribe, share, rate, do all the free things, do all the good things. Liquid Death in hand. Join us. Thank you for your support. Say less, say more. Everywhere you get your podcasts. And Sports Reports as ordered is out.
Hey! Sports reports, no gimmicks, no clowns. 2-5, Mr. Logical, we run this town. Real talk only, no chasing, no doubt. From the east to the west, it's the order we shout. Mic check, lights flash, game time, stay ready. 2 vets in the zone, keep the pressure real heavy. Big hits, big plays, yeah, we breaking it down. Truth rings in your speakers, every word is the crown. From the north side hustle to that southern flame. Midwest grind, west coast of the game. Sports talk kings, yeah, we wear that crown. Turn it up, let them know it's about to go down. Sports reports, no gimmicks, no clowns. 2-5, Mr. Logical, we run this town. Real talk only, no chaser, no doubt. From the east